Guide to the Everyday Witch Tarot by Deborah Blake. 0. The Fool. Embrace the unknown. So why is she flying off into who knows where? Because sometimes you reach a point where there is no choice but to close your eyes and jump. Life doesn't come with any guarantees, and from time to time you have to make the big leap in order to reap the big rewards. They don't call it a leap of faith for nothing after all. Sometimes you just gotta believe. Things to consider. Getting the Fool card doesn't mean you are a fool. Far from it. What it probably means is that you have been hesitating at the precipice of a big decision, afraid to make the kind of choice that could change your whole life forever, or even of making a smaller choice that could shake things up. The Fool reminds us that after a while you have to stop considering all the possible options, listen to your gut, and just do it. If you don't have faith in the universe, then have faith in yourself. Even if the adventure doesn't work out the way you want it to, you will most certainly learn something new and grow from the experience. Number 1, the Magician. The magic is inside you. You have all the tools you need to accomplish your goals. On an altar are 4 silver tools: athame, wand, chalice, and pentacle coin. They glow with a golden light. A black cat is perched on one corner, sitting upright and basque-like, knowing whatever it is that cats know. Behind the altar table stands an androgynous figure with dark shoulder-length hair held back by a silver circlet with a crescent moon in the middle. The figure wears rich and ornate flowing robes. A matching golden glow surrounds the figure and is strongest at their head, heart, and hands. Their arms are raised into the air and swirls of power flow into the hands. Who is this mysterious figure, and what does he or she represent? Magic, of course. Not the kind of magic that a stage magician does, all sleight of hand and tricks. No. The magician holds true magic within, the ability to do what is necessary, to be wise, to be kind, and to find success at the end of every endeavor. The magician represents our own capacity to balance all the tools of the 4 suits, cups, wands, swords, and pentacles, and use them to create positive change in the world. Who wouldn't want that kind of magic? Things to consider. The Magician card is powerful and positive. If you question going into the reading was anything like, can I do this? Or will I succeed? Then the Magician appearing will almost certainly mean that the answer is a resounding, you bet. But keep in mind that this card is about personal power and individual ability. Whatever you are dealing with, you may have to rely on yourself to triumph in the end. Don't worry, you already have all the tools you need to succeed. However, if the Magician is in a position in the reading that indicates it represents someone other than you, it may be suggesting a strong ally who you can depend on to work a little magic on your behalf. Number 2, the High Priestess. Higher wisdom is available to us all. Seek knowledge from within and without. A dark-haired witch sits on a chair wearing her witch's hat. To either side are tall pillar candles on stands, one white and one black. In front of her there is a large glowing crystal ball into which she is looking. To the left of the crystal ball is a tarot spread, and to the right is an enigmatic black cat with one foot resting on a drawstring bag from which rune stones are spilling. Behind the table there are stacks of books. Mystery surrounds her, and yet you get the sense that this High Priestess knows everything about you. Your worries and your innermost secret desires, your past and your future, before you even ask a single question. She has all the answers you seek, but can you convince her to share them? The High Priestess represents both ancient wisdom and current knowledge. She is every wise woman who ever lived and every matriarch who ever ruled over her family's kitchen table. You can learn a lot from her, but you have to be looking for the answers in order to get them, and you have to be willing to deal with the truth when you get it. Life is rarely black and white, and neither is what you will learn. Things to consider. The High Priestess represents deep wisdom. Sometimes that wisdom comes from outside of us, and sometimes it comes from within, but it rarely just lands in our laps accidentally. This card encourages you to embrace your own power, inner wisdom, and knowledge, and to pursue such things outside of yourself as well. What are you seeking? What questions do you need answered? And what can you do to find them? The High Priestess card in a reading may represent you, or it may be an indication that there is someone you can turn to for help, a mentor, an elder, or someone you respect in your spiritual community. But don't expect this person to just hand you the answers. You are still going to have to do the hard work for yourself. Be aware of looking at things as black or white, right or wrong. Life is rarely that simple. And sometimes you have to accept that you can't know everything right now. Number 3, the Empress. The divine feminine is in all of us. Abundance, nurturing, and female power. A vibrant witch dressed in a flowing, rich-colored gown stands tall and proud. She is sexy and yet also somehow maternal, with her dress draping off her shoulders and spreading out from where it is gathered under abundant breasts. One hand rests on her belly, suggesting that she might possibly be pregnant. The other hand holds a scepter topped with a glowing ruby crystal, representing the blood of life. Behind her, apple trees bear both fruit and blossoms. She is Mother Nature and motherhood itself, nurturing and wise. The Empress is the embodiment of all that is female and powerful, gifting us with abundance, strength, and growth. She is the cycle of life from birth to death, although for now we look on her in all her vivid and fertile glory, seeing the beauty that resides in every woman, no matter her age or circumstances. She reminds us that all women are divine. The Empress is the personification of growth and possibility. With her on your side, you can achieve anything. Things to consider. The Empress is a reminder to embrace growth, abundance, and your own feminine power. Even men have feminine power, although it may be more subtle. The Empress says yes to life. Do you? What are you growing in the garden that is your life? Are you nurturing yourself and your own endeavors? The Empress may represent you or some strong woman in your life, a mother or role model or someone with that strong nurturing energy, or she could even indicate pregnancy. Celebrate the divine feminine in your life, no matter what form it takes. Number 4, the Emperor. Lead and others will follow. Strength lies not in might, but in experience and the wisdom that comes from it. An older male sage with brown hair shot with silver sits on a simple wooden throne at dusk. He wears a crown with prongs of antlers and holds a scepter with a glowing sapphire that matches his flowing red robes. His eyes are also blue, and his face is wise and a little bit stern, but not forbidding. His other hand strokes the black kitten in his lap, and an older German shepherd sleeps at his feet. A scroll lies on the ground in front of him, partially unrolled to show a map of the constellations. The mood is one of solid strength and power. You know that this is a man you can trust and depend on. You also know that you should probably listen when he speaks. He didn't get where he is by accident. This guy knows things, and he gets things done. You could do worse than to follow his lead. The Emperor is a true king. He is wise and experienced, and he always tries to do what is right for his people. He keeps order because life flows more easily when things are done correctly and everyone follows the rules. He does nothing without thinking it through first, but he is not afraid to take action if it is necessary. He is the embodiment of the sacred male, a father and a figure of authority. The Emperor nurtures those around him just as the Empress does, but his approach is very different and his touch is a little heavier. He is definitely someone you want on your side, but be wary since he can be harsh when he is sure he knows what is right for others and they refuse to do things his way. Things to consider. The Emperor card often represents a strong male figure, a father, husband, boss, or mentor. Usually his presence is benevolent, even helpful, but occasionally he can be heavy-handed or oppressive. If this card is clearly meant to stand for you in this reading, it may be a suggestion to embrace your own strength or to bring more order to your world. It can also be a gentle hint that you are, shall we say, a tad too determined to have things your way. If it indicates a strong man in your life, is he someone you can depend on? If so, that's fabulous, and you probably can relax a little about whatever is worrying you, knowing you have him on your side. On the other hand, the Emperor could indicate someone who thinks he is the boss of you when in reality, he isn't. If someone is trying to force you into a mold you don't fit, it may be time to open your eyes to the situation and find a way to regain your own personal power. Number 5, the Hierophant. The sacred is everywhere. You create your spiritual path every time you take a step. Listen to those who came before you and make it your own. A witch sits in a cross-legged yoga pose on a cushion. Her witchy dress is pulled up to show striped leggings. Her eyes are closed and her hands are raised up to her shoulder height with thumb and first fingers touching and palms facing upward. In front of her are 2 young witches sitting in the same pose. The mood is quiet and thoughtful as she teaches the next generation how to breathe. You'd think they'd know how to do so already, but really, which of us is fully present in our own lives? This card is based on the word Hierophant, which means the manifestation of the sacred. The Hierophant is one who teaches, who leads the way, who shows us how to manifest the spiritual in our own lives. Sometimes the Hierophant is our own inner wisdom, guiding us to the next step along the path. This teacher may represent actual formal learning, classes, or even a university degree, or perhaps more mind-body connections like yoga being practiced in the picture on the card. It is all about creating a bridge between the mundane everyday life we all lead and the beliefs that shape our personal truths. Things to consider. The Hierophant card may represent an actual teacher, someone who will help us to become our best selves, or it may be a reminder to stop and breathe. We all intend to take the time to manifest our spiritual selves, but the hectic pace of life often distracts us from this goal. If the Hierophant appears in your reading, ask yourself if it is a particular person who might have wisdom to share with you, or perhaps it is a suggestion to listen to your own inner voice. Are you walking your talk? Number 6, the Lovers. All you need is love. Love is all around us. 2 witches stand in front of a bonfire holding hands. The smoke from the bonfire rises above them to form the shape of a female winged spirit, her arms spread wide. In front of the witches sit 2 cats, their tails entwined to form a heart in the middle. The mood is loving and warm. There is love here, both on the physical plane and the spiritual plane, and the sense that no matter what, neither of these people will ever be alone. The Lovers isn't as simple a card as it may seem. Yes, sometimes it really means romantic love, but it can also be about the power that love brings to heal and protect. These witches have chosen to stand together. Maybe they are lovers in truth, maybe friends or siblings. More important, they are there together, making an otherwise mundane moment something magical. Because what is more powerfully magical than love? Things to consider. If you asked about love in your reading, then the Lovers may be the answer you were looking for. But it can also be about trust and love in general. Sometimes the Lovers card symbolizes all the pieces coming together in perfect harmony. So if you are trying to make a choice, you may want to use this card as a suggestion to look into your heart to discover which option gives you that magical feeling of completeness and rightness. Number 7, the Chariot. Onward and upward, forward, ever sideways. It doesn't matter which direction you pick as long as you pick one and get moving. A witch wearing a black hat and motorcycle jacket is riding a red motorcycle. In the sidecar attached to the motorcycle is perched a black cat. They are stopped at a crossroads. To one side there is a black signpost with white writing that reads this way, with an arrow pointing to the left. To the other side there is a white signpost with black lettering that reads that way, with an arrow pointing to the right. The witch and the cat both look thoughtful, and maybe a bit puzzled. The mood is tentatively optimistic. Either way could have something wonderful at the end. The Chariot is about forward movement, but more than that, it is about staying in control as you move forward, steering your own course toward your destiny. Life may be pulling you in different directions, but you get to choose. Sometimes you even get to say both or everything, but only if making that choice doesn't cause you to veer off your path and into a ditch. Things to consider. It can be difficult to choose a path, especially if they both look inviting. Ask yourself what it is you truly desire and how hard are you willing to work to get it. Whatever happens, don't allow anyone to make the choice for you. This is your time to be in charge and make the decisions that will shape your future. Choose wisely, then move forward with confidence, knowing that you are capable of making the journey. 8. Strength. I am power, hear me roar. You are stronger than you think. A witch in a black hat points the wand in her right hand off to the side, pushing away a powerful storm. Light is streaming out of the wand, and a funnel cloud can be seen moving away, taking darkness with it. The rest of the card is light, and the witch is so confident in her magic that she isn't even looking in that direction. Instead, her attention is directed at the giant lion to her left, who is licking her hand. At its feet sits a black cat looking proud as if saying, "It followed me home. Can I keep it?" There is a lot of power in the Strength card, but it isn't because the witch has more magic than anyone else or can turn you into a toad without a second thought, although both of those may be true. Her power comes from confidence in her own abilities and knowing that the universe makes all things come right in the end. Even her cat has that kind of confidence and views the huge lion as just a slightly larger member of the family. The Strength card reminds us that we have what it takes to triumph, no matter what comes our way. Things to consider. If this card appears in a reading, it is almost certainly there to remind you of your own inner strength. It is saying yes. Yes, you can. You may feel overwhelmed or uncertain, but whatever you're facing, you have the strength to endure and triumph in the end. Number 9, the Hermit. There is wisdom in listening to the silence. Alone is not the same thing as lonely. A witch sits in a clearing in the midst of a dark woods. The only light comes from the bonfire in front of her. She is sitting cross-legged, her hat and broom to one side and her black cat on the other. Her eyes are closed, but she is clearly meditating or listening, not sleeping. An owl is perched on a branch nearby. The mood is serene and quiet. You can tell that she is alone by choice, perhaps permanently, perhaps only for a night or two. There are times when you can only hear yourself think by removing yourself from the world for a bit. Maybe you need to take some time by yourself. Maybe you need a break from relationships or hectic jobs or anything else that involves people and noise. Maybe you just need to take a moment here and there to sit and be still. The Hermit reminds us that being alone is not the same thing as being lonely, and sometimes the best way to heal or learn or grow is to do it by ourselves in silence. Things to consider. The Hermit is a good indication that it is time for you to be alone for a while. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. If life is so hectic that you can't seem to hear your own thoughts, perhaps you need a little peace and quiet. You don't necessarily have to go off into the woods. Maybe just turn off the phone and the computer for a few hours. The Hermit reminds us to stop and be quiet so we can listen to our own inner voice, which often gets lost in the noise of the rest of the world. If your question involved romance, then the answer may be that now isn't the time for that. Sometimes what we really need is solitude and time to be fully present with ourselves. Number 10, Wheel of Fortune. All possibilities lie before you. With change comes opportunity. What will you choose? A witch in a pointy hat stands next to a prize wheel, one hand poised to spin it. At various places on the wheel there are pictures, a house, a pot of pentacle-marked coins, a caduceus, a shooting star, a sun, a diamond ring, an open book, and a heart. It is clear that she has a multitude of wide-open possibilities, all of them good. All she has to do is decide which one she wants to go for and go for it. Who among us doesn't wish for prosperity, health, love, and opportunity? Of course, if we are given too many options, it does become hard to choose. Life is almost easier when it is difficult and the possibilities are limited. The Wheel of Fortune shows us that change is coming. Perhaps we'll get to choose. Perhaps fate will choose for us. Either way, that wheel is spinning and nobody knows what will happen next. Things to consider. The Wheel of Fortune says, heads up, pay attention. Are there opportunities in front of you that you aren't paying attention to? If so, you better grab one before it spins out of reach. Are you wrestling with a difficult choice? This card won't help you make the decision, but it does remind you that fortune favors the bold. If you don't choose, the universe will probably choose for you. Sometimes the Wheel of Fortune is simply a warning that something unexpected is coming. That doesn't mean something bad necessarily, but it is always good to be prepared, isn't it? Number 11, Justice. What goes around comes around. Sooner or later, the universe balances itself out, but maybe not the way you expected. A silver-haired witch wearing a black gown sits upright on a chair. From one hand dangles a set of scales. On one side of the scales there is a black kitten, and on the other there is a white kitten. They are hissing at each other, each with one paw raised, claws out. In the witch's other hand she holds a large open book of laws. There is a blindfold over her eyes, but it is pulled up a little on the side toward the scale, and she is clearly peeking out. The feeling of the card is serious, but with a hint of amusement. That karma, she sure can be a bitch. People say that justice is blind. That just means they've never met her. She sees everything, even when it seems as though she isn't looking. There is no hiding the truth. She sees your actions and inside your soul. If things aren't going well, justice suggests looking at where your responsibility in the situation lies. But if you are worried that someone else won't get what they deserve, don't. Justice watches everyone, and sooner or later, she makes sure the scales balance out. Things to consider. The idea of karma is simple. You reap what you sow. Life, of course, rarely works out exactly that way, but sooner or later, things tend to come back around. The Justice card stands for legal justice on occasion, but just as often it signifies fairness, truth, and balance. If you are asking for justice, be sure that is what you want. The universe doesn't play favorites or take sides. If the Justice card appears in your reading, it may be a reminder to be careful what you are putting out into the world, or it may be an assurance that you are going to triumph over an unfair situation at last. Number 12, the Hanged Man. Just hanging around. Just because you haven't moved in ages doesn't mean you're stuck. Oh, wait. Yes, it does. A witch hangs upside down from a broom that stretches across the top of the card. There are chains around the witch's feet and hands with big locks on them, Houdini-like. Tucked in one hand, barely visible but glowing to catch attention, is the key to the locks. The mood is one of being stuck in limbo, but with the possibility of a solution right before your eyes. Ever feel like you are completely stuck, unable to move in any direction? Then you will sympathize with this poor witch who is clearly in a similar situation. He's in limbo, caught between time and space, not going anywhere anytime soon. And there's nothing he can do about it. Or is there? If you look closely, you will see that he has the key that will unlock his bonds. He only has to figure out how to get himself out of that uncomfortable position so he can use it. Maybe it is time to look at things from a different point of view, than you usually would. Luckily, that should be easy to do since he is already hanging upside down. Things to consider. No one is ever truly stuck, but there are definitely times when it feels like it. The Hanged Man shows up in a reading to remind us that if we have hit the wall, sometimes the only way out is to go over or around instead of through. That may require that you stop banging your head against it long enough to figure out a completely different approach. Clearly, whatever you've been doing hasn't been working. Where in your life are you stuck? Try looking at the situation from a new angle or with a better attitude. You can do something to get yourself unstuck, or you can simply accept that you are stuck right now and see if there are any benefits to be had from simply hanging around for a while. 13. Death. All things must end sometime. When one door closes, another opens. A black cloaked and hooded figure stands in the middle of a dark landscape, a blank white porcelain mask over its face. It holds a silver sword poised over a fraying brown rope. To one side of the figure there is a closed door, and to the other there is a door that is open just enough to show a golden light shining through. At the edge of the card, a black cat has one paw on a gray tail of something that is running away. The feeling of the card is grim, but with a glimmer of hope. Don't panic. The death card doesn't always mean actual death. In fact, it is much more likely to indicate the death of something, such as the end of an era and the beginning of another. We often have to let go of one thing to make room for something better, but that doesn't mean that the process is always pleasant, or that you know that this is happening while you are caught up in the pain of the transition. A bad relationship dies so that you can find a better one. You lose a job that is sucking the soul out of you. These deaths hurt, don't they? But when you look back on them later, you will do so with gratitude because they freed you to move on. It is okay to mourn, but don't forget that death can also mean rebirth into something wonderful. Things to consider. The death card doesn't seem like it is the bringer of good news, does it? But it also rarely comes as a surprise. You probably already knew that something was ending. Hopefully, you have caught a glimpse of whatever new thing will take its place and can find some solace in it. It's okay to mourn your loss. Just don't make the mistake of hanging on to something that is already gone. It's dead. Let it go. And when you are done mourning, perhaps you will be able to find the open door that has taken the place of the one that has closed. Number 14, temperance. Strive for balance in all things. Balance? It's impossible to achieve, but keep striving anyway. A witch wears a black hat, a black tunic, and striped tights, stands straight and rooted in tree pose. She has one eye open and one eye closed. There is some space around her, but to one side there is a tray with cupcakes on it, a martini glass, and an open laptop. To the other side there is a plate with a bunch of carrots complete with leafy green ends, a clear full glass of water with a slice of lemon on it, and a book. A small black kitten is licking frosting off of one paw over by the cupcakes. The feeling of the card is lighthearted, yet perfectly balanced. How do you achieve balance in life? Our temperance witch would probably say moderation in all things, including moderation, and then smile that angelic smile because she has managed to achieve what for most of us is simply impossible. That doesn't mean we can't try, though. Striving for perfect balance is a never-ending task that requires both discipline and calm, along with the ability to go with the flow while staying rooted and strong. We never said it was easy, did we? Things to consider. Have you ever tried standing in tree pose? For most of us, the best we can hope for is to maintain it for a moment or two before we start to wobble. The keys to this yoga pose, much like the keys to life, are being rooted in the earth and to your own core, staying calm and composed and not struggling too hard. If the temperance card appears in your reading, it may be a reminder to reach for your inner strength and take a deep breath. Is your life out of control? Perhaps it is time to work on moderation and calm to make sure you are paying attention to all aspects of your life. Work and play, time with others, and time for yourself. Striving and resting, indulgence and self-discipline. Try to go with the flow, and every once in a while, treat yourself to a cupcake. 15. The devil. The devil you don't know isn't necessarily better than the one you don't. Number 15. The devil. The devil you know isn't necessarily better than the one you don't. The devil made you do it? I don't think so. A handsome devil of a mage with dark hair, a pointed black beard, and a swirling black cape is offering money to a young male witch and an ice cream cone to a young female witch. While he is smiling and pleasant, a pointed tail curls out from underneath his cape, and his eyes have a reddish gleam. Each witch has a cat who is trying to pull them away and is being ignored. A volcano smokes far in the background. The mood is ominous, but not hopeless. Contrary to what you might think, the devil doesn't represent some evil being who comes in from the outside world to lure and ensnare us. That would be easier to fight than the reality, which is that each of us has devils that we have created for ourselves. Addiction, bad habits, obsessions, and unhealthy decisions that we cling to long after it is clear that they are leading us in the wrong direction or holding our lives hostage. Temptation can be hard to resist. That makes this seem like a scary, hopeless card, but it isn't. We often hold on to the devil we know because we are more comfortable with the negativity and dysfunction we are used to than we are the idea of starting over and creating something better. But you can do it. You chose this devil, and you can choose to say no more. Things to consider. What does the devil card stand for in your life? What holds you back? Are you looking clearly at all of the aspects of your life? Relationships, jobs, patterns of thought or behavior? Or are you clinging to things that you know harm you because it seems too difficult to walk away? If the devil card represents a person who is bad for you, and sometimes it does, perhaps it is time to stop kidding yourself about their intentions and walk away rapidly. No matter what this card stands for, it also tells you that you have the power to change things for the better. Number 16, the Tower. Chaos and destruction. Things go boom. Sometimes things have to crash and burn to make room for something new and better. A fairy tale tower lies in smoking ruins. To one side is a witch with a mischievous look on her face, a wand behind her back with tiny sparks shooting out of it. A black and white cat peers cautiously out from underneath some nearby bushes. The witch is wearing a black pointed hat and a black cape, and both the cape and her long dark hair are blowing in the wind created by the explosion. The feeling of the card is wild and chaotic, but not depressing. In fact, you suspect that perhaps this witch has purposely blown things up. You just can't for the life of you figure out why. Life rarely runs smoothly, but there are times when it seems as though our entire existence is crashing down around our ears. Jobs are lost, relationships implode, we lose friendships that we treasured. Some of this is just life. After all, as everyone knows, stuff happens. But much of the time, that chaos and destruction has to occur to make room for something new and better. Take heart. Try to see the positive in even the worst situation. You can survive the blast. Things to consider. Depending on where this card falls in the reading, the explosion may have happened already. You may be in the midst of the chaos, or disaster may be still on its way. If the tower has already gone boom, what can you learn from the experience? What new and positive things can rise out of the ashes of what you have lost? If you are in the midst of the mess, how can you cope better, or who can you ask for help? If the crisis is on the horizon, how can you prepare better now that you know that it is coming? Look deep and you may find that you already knew there was something you had to let go of, no matter how difficult the process might be. What can you build out of what remains? 17. The Star. We are the light of the stars. The cosmos is also within us. We are made of star stuff. By Carl Sagan. A witch with flowing silver hair and a long silver gown stands under a dark sky filled with stars. She wears a circlet made of glowing stars, which also cover her dress. One hand is raised toward the sky, palm open, and light flows down from the sky into her palm like the northern lights. The other hand points to the ground, palm down, and the same multicolored light flows out into a pool of water by her feet. The water is blue but turns colors where the light joins it. Here is a guiding light in the dark, hope and tranquility, peace amid chaos. She will help lead you to a place of balance that will cleanse your spirit, and if you are fortunate, perhaps she will grant you a wish. The stars have long been a sight that lifts our hearts. Is there anything more beautiful than that bright spot of light in a dark sky? The star is one of those rare cards that has no negative interpretations. If she shows up in your reading, accept her gifts with gratitude and appreciation. Things to consider. The star brings with it balance and hope, and a reminder that we all have a spark of the divine within us. As Carl Sagan said, we are all made of star stuff. So while the star promises us that we will find what we seek, it also reminds us to look within as well as without for the answers, and to let our light shine out into the world to illuminate the paths of others. 18. The Moon. Mystery, magic, and a hint of mayhem. Go ahead, howl at the moon. You know you want to. A large full moon fills the night sky, and the silhouette of a witch wearing a black hat and riding on a broom can be seen crossing in front of it. On the ground below, a black cat gazes into a pool of water at its reflection. A black panther gazes back, its mouth open so you can see its fangs. A path leads off into the distance away from the pool. The mood is mysterious, half wild and half tame, much like our own spirits and the moon itself. The moon has long been the symbol of the goddess, feminine power personified. It also represents change, both predictable and not, as its very shape seems to mutate in the sky above, moving from a tiny sliver to a full round orb and back again until it disappears from sight. The moon card may carry with it a suggestion that there are unseen forces at work, mysterious and impossible to foresee. It can also indicate someone who is torn between their two natures, tame or wild, practical or creative. Can you embrace them both, or must you choose? Only the moon knows, and she's not telling. Things to consider. The moon card often indicates a time or feeling of uncertainty. Have you been restless, torn between two paths? Perhaps now is the time to choose which aspect of yourself will show its face in the world. If you have been having nightmares, perhaps your subconscious is trying to send you a message. Make sure you are listening. The moon card may herald a time of flux and change, neither good nor bad. It simply warns you to look carefully at the reflection in the water. What hidden secrets will it reveal if you are daring enough to gaze directly at the moon's face? Number 19, the sun. Let the sun shine in. It doesn't get any better than this. A bright yellow sun fills the sky. Underneath, wearing bright gauzy clothing, 3 witches, a maiden, a budding young woman, a mother, hugely pregnant, and a crone, older but still spry, all dance in a circle. They are in the middle of a field that can be seen peering out from amongst the flowers. One even has a flower dangling from its mouth. The mood is celebratory and glorious, and why shouldn't it be? This is the best day of their lives. What could be more wonderful than to dance in the warmth of light and of sun on a perfect day and in perfect company? Not much, that's what. Sometimes life gifts you with a moment, an hour, a day of joy and spontaneous celebration. Maybe you have a sudden breakthrough coming out of the clouds of uncertainty or depression. Maybe you are simply hit by one of those moments when everything seems to fall into place. Enjoy it, because such times are rare and fleeting. Later you can deal with everyday issues, but for today, just dance. Things to consider. The sun card is simple and completely positive. If it shows up in your reading, it is always a good sign. Did you ask a question? The sun probably means that the answer is yes. Or maybe it is just a reminder to take time out to enjoy the good moments when they show up. When is the last time you celebrated something or danced for joy just because you could? Let the sun shine into your life, and joy is sure to follow. Number 20, judgment. Here we go again. Where has your path led you, and where will it lead you now? A witch in a black hat dances merrily down a path while playing a recorder and wearing a short black tunic that shows off her striped stockings. A black kitten bounces in her wake, chasing a butterfly that flits amongst the musical notes. A shining light beckons from the direction they are heading. The mood is of anticipation. The judgment card is often perceived as something ominous due to the traditional picture that features naked dead people being summoned by the angel Gabriel's trumpet. What isn't clear is that this call is less about being judged by someone else and more about taking a look at your own life and finding it unsatisfactory. Our witch on the card is following some music that only she can hear, playing along as she moves happily down the path toward rebirth, renewal, and letting go. She is light of heart and feet because she has put down old grudges and hurts that were dragging her down. There is joy in finally heeding the call to the life you are meant to be living. Things to consider. Are you following your own music or dancing to someone else's tune? The Judgment card reminds us to listen to our own inner wisdom. It can also be a suggestion that we are judging ourselves too harshly or taking others' judgment of us to heart. If this card shows up in your reading, it may be an indication that it is time to let go of the old and embrace the new. Rebirth and renewal await if you are willing to go down the path that will take you to them. Number 21, the world, success and celebration. Huzzah! The world is your oyster, unless you don't like oysters, in which case it is your hot fudge sundae. A witch throws her black hat into the air and it sails away on the wind. The sun is shining and she is on a tropical beach with her bare feet in the waves as they meet the shore. A little farther from the water there is a blanket spread with a feast, including a large glass with fruit on a stick and a tiny umbrella. A black cat sits by the blanket looking pleased. The mood is of joyousness and the attainment of all desires. This witch may have taken a long journey to get there, but at last she is right where she wants to be. Break out the bubbly and strike up the band. There is a lot to celebrate. The World card signifies completion, the attainment of goals and success in whatever endeavors you have been pursuing. If it is the final future card in a reading, no matter what comes before it, you will triumph in the end. The World is another one of those rare cards that has no negative interpretations. Nothing but good times ahead, baby. You did it. Pat yourself on the back. Hell, have someone else pat you on the back too. You deserve it. Things to consider. If you have been striving for ages, working hard to achieve your dreams, getting the World card is very good news indeed. It means that sooner or later success will be yours. Depending on the card's placement in a reading, that goal may be some time off, but at least you can continue the journey knowing that eventually you are going to get there. If you asked a question and got the World card, you can be pretty sure that the answer is a loud and enthusiastic yes.